Thanks to Josh, who owns Exceed Designs, I finally procured a version 3 of their new Tirant razor. So we're going to be talking about, well, first of all, what I've learned since I opened the first one, and also just kind of showcasing the changes that they've made to the design. So if you're interested, stay tuned. I want to say a big thanks to Josh for also sending out these carbon fiber scales. There's different finishes you can get them, so you can now see what they're like. I'm not a huge fan of the slipperiness of carbon fiber in general without texturing. This, on the other hand, that's great. I like this a lot. So a nice little milling pattern happening on this carbon fiber. Looks cool, feels great. That's going to be slick. So here is the tool itself. So these are surprisingly small. In fact, the total length of it is only 3.5 inches. So it's quite small, but the cool thing about it is that after you flip them open, which you can with a flipper tab, you have a lot more hand space than you would with any standard folding knife of this size. So that's a huge bit. Also, more than a lot of other utility knives. Now, I think the Gerber EAB has a length similar. This actually has quite a bit of exposed cutting edge. So you can do a little bit more with this than you can with some other utility knives. I really, really like that. Now, there's no particular order that I wanted to assess things, but I did want to address something that I almost missed in my last video where I talked about the Exceed Designs Tirant razor. So the way you actually take out the blades is pressing the titanium here. It will flex slightly and that will allow you to pull the blade out. Now notice that it comes with a Lennox, I believe this is a Lennox, yeah, titanium. These are great blades and they have a lot of positions to get in. So you just want to be a little careful with this part once you get it in, because it is pretty snug, and then you're good to go. Once you get it in there, it's not going to move. And so that's pretty good. A couple of people have said under intense stress in sideways direction, you can imagine that might pop out the utility knife blade, but as long as you're going in the same direction, you should be okay. Now this is actually on bearings, which makes the action really, really nice. Let me take these out of the way for just a second so you can see something. This is really nice, and I haven't adjusted in any way. I pulled it right out of the box right before this, and it looks great. There are some changes though in the design, so I wanted to kind of go over those. Interesting. So my particular one has, oh, it's just rubber. Just rubber from the box. I thought it was a scratch there for a second. That's too funny. So let me talk a little bit about some changes. I'm not going to go over the whole thing. In fact, I'll just put this up here if you want to pause for a second. But there's a couple of things I wanted to bring your attention to. This is assembled here in this kit in the United States. These are made overseas, but they're assembled here. I believe they are made in China. Now, some interesting stuff here, but the one thing I want to bring your attention to is this. TSA friendly when carried without blade. And he is correct when you visit the TSA's website. They're technically, this is legal. However, and this is something that a number of people pointed out, there have been recent memos sent out to TSA agents telling them not to allow handles of utility knife blades through TSA, even if they have no blades intact. So although it's technically TSA friendly, everyone understands how TSA works, right? Like they basically, if they're having a bad day, they're taking your nail clippers, right? Even though they're legal. You're allowed to take scissors, in fact, on the plane, even if they're pointy, up to a certain length. But a lot of times those get taken too. They're not exactly following their own rules, so just keep that in mind, okay? Now, what is great is there's plenty of places I go where I might not want to have a blade, but I don't necessarily want to get rid of it, or I want to have a nice short blade, and this is actually better than a lot of the smaller knives, at least for me, because if I'm going to have a small blade, it might as well be replaceable and still have a nice, big handle grip. That's what I really like about utility knives in general, is that they also do something that, well, let's just say that none of the big knives really do. You're not going to cut this on, you're not going to cut cardboard on concrete with some of your expensive knives. You're just not going to do that. And this fills a really nice little niche, and it looks great. So this is the stone washed titanium finish, frame lock with a steel lock bar insert, I believe, right there, an over travel stop, bearings. He also mentioned that there should be bearings, skiff bearings available at some point on his website. Not yet, but he will be making some available. He also sent this, which I'll have to ask him about. It's a shorter clip, and it looks like I really like the angle on this one. I think this will actually be a better clip. I'm looking forward to trying that. Definitely. What else? We got that. We got the scales. This is, I mean, what is there to say? It's great. I love this thing. A lot of people I know who are willing to spend money on knives, but just don't necessarily want to damage their expensive blades doing tough tasks, really appreciate the fact that this can be both beautiful with the titanium and still very, very functional. The actual blade itself can take the kind of abuse that any other utility knife can. And then you can flip it around and use the other end. And then you can replace it. And that is great. Utility knives are just in a league of their own when it comes to the kind of abuse that you can put on them, especially at the tip. You can really mess around with that, and you don't really care because guess what? You can just replace it. The other thing utility blades do very well is, compare that to, say, for instance, my current carry for today. This is a lot thinner. A lot thinner. So it's going to slice a lot better for certain types of tasks. So there's an advantage, and frankly, there aren't any folding knives that can match that. That's an advantage as well. I wasn't planning on necessarily doing this video, but I just got it, and I thought you guys would want to see this and to see all the upcoming changes to it. If this is something you've been waiting for, you can kind of get an idea of what's coming, and also see what you're going to get in the box. So you'll be getting a replacement lock bar insert. I'm not even sure why they did that. I can't imagine that wearing out very quickly. A replacement lanyard spot, now turning it into a pry tool. I've tried this before, by the way. I like it better like this. It's very cool, and I'm sure some people love it, but it's not for me personally. I think it just sticks out just a little bit too much. I like how smooth and how comfortable this is. It comes with some spare blades. It comes with a spare pivot, and that's something also that's really cool. The new version 3 has a square pivot. I love that. So it locks itself in place. You can see the cutout for it on the carbon fiber scales. And I wonder, did they put some more? Yeah, no, it's just standard blades. But the one that's in here is the Linux blade. There are standard blades in here that would come with it. These are just kind of, you know, beat the heck blades. These are going to last a lot longer. So if you're ever looking for replacement blades, I believe Project Farm did a testing of this, and they found that the Linux blades were in the top 3 for sure from performance standpoint. So it's a good choice to keep in the knife. Too bad he doesn't have a whole stack of them in there, but I can see the legality problem with that because it's owned by another company that might be against it. So either way, really, really nice. My friend Ben over at Texas Tool Crib swears by these things. Got it on a whim, and now it's the one thing he carries all the time. So love it. Love the design. Good updates. Still great as far as action is concerned. It is a premium piece. Let's be clear. These are not as cheap as they used to be. I think they were about $60. They're now up to about $80. But if you wanted something that's very premium, but still very functional, I think this covers some unique categories and some certain needs that I don't think are being met elsewhere. So really, really cool job from Exceed Designs. That's it for today. Thanks for your time, and we'll talk again soon.